Peace, 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 love, and light to the collective. Um, I'm back with part two. A brief history on Weeks Avenue. Um, I left off with where the drugs came to Weeks, and as I watched the video and went back, I think I skipped over some major parts. Because there was a lot more to Weeks than drugs and all of that, and I don't think I touched on that enough. So I'm gonna backtrack a little bit in this video, and then we're gonna get into, bring it up to current history in the next video. So this one is gonna be a little bit of in between the time the drugs and the gang banging and all of that started on the block. But first, let me say some things before I even continue, because this is a touchy situation. You know what I'm saying? I'm talking about a lot of death, a lot of murders, people doing time and all of that. So, like the Chicago thing, I don't think because I sat and watched a lot of their stuff, and I don't think they go hard enough to prove to the family members that it's bigger than the death. These blocks are celebrated behind destruction. They're celebrated because of the drugs and the gang banging and the hip hop culture and all the negativity. You know what I'm saying? So I don't think these neighborhoods are celebrated enough for some of the good that went on there, or some of the things that happened. And I don't think, people represent the dead in a good way. They smoke on each other dead and, stuff like that. So we not from Chicago, and I don't want to continue to propagate and promote that culture in New York City. We're not Chicago. We're not LA. You know what I'm saying? New York is a beautiful place. It's a big, bright city, and there's a big difference. I'm not being funny or nothing, but these white people, the government, they don't care nothing about Chicago. They don't care nothing about LA. They don't care nothing about, Mississippi. They don't Philly, Baltimore, Detroit. They don't care nothing about those places. They don't care nothing about New York, the ghettos of New York City either. But the difference is, for it being the finance capital of the world and the fashion capital of the world, a major tourist attraction, because it's like that, they don't care about us, but they care about the money. So they're gonna, indict us, and they're not gonna let us kill each other like they do in those other places. And this is why New York people get indicted so fast. This is why outside of DC, New York is probably gonna be the biggest population in the federal penitentiary. You know what I'm saying? And I know niggas are saying in their head, yeah, because of you. I mean, whatever. But I'm gonna get the facts. I'm gonna get the truth. You know what I'm saying? And that's why they letting people go, so much in that city, is because, you give up the guys who doing the murder for hires, you give up the big homies, and you could go home. That's how they building it. They want to clean up their city, and they cleaning it up, and they're gonna continue to clean it up. So like I said, I don't want to promote the Chicago aspect of these neighborhoods and blocks to where we're representing the death and destruction. I'm talking about it because there's a lot of people talking about it who don't know what they're talking about. And I can talk about it because I already profit about 95% of what I'm telling y'all here today. So I can talk about it. Like, I don't have to worry about going to prison or putting nobody else in prison, because everything I'm saying the FBI already got. And they even told me during my profits that, I was a unique individual. That's what made me so valuable to them. I know real niggas, your stomach is turning because I'm, saying what I'm saying. But, if you're a real nigga, get off of here. You know who I am and you know what I'm about. So if you don't want to hear it, remove yourself. But that's what made me so valuable, is because I was on Weeks before there was drugs. I was on Weeks before the gang banging. I was on Weeks before the Dominicans, before the Puerto Ricans, before a lot of the stuff that, brought down the neighborhood. So that's what made me so, valuable to them. So I know I'm the only person capable of telling you about Weeks Avenue. So you could listen to the other guys on the channels and the blogs who's giving a brief summaries. All they shit is secondhand. They not from over there, and they wasn't involved. And you could be over there, but you wasn't involved. Or you could be from over there, but you came over there in the late 90s or the early 90s, So who better but me? So let me start by giving shout outs to the neighborhood. And I would like to give, rest in peace to a lot of people. We lost a lot of people over there, Little Ant, Tizza, Nano, Little Marvin, Marley G, Coco, you know what I'm saying? My son Adulito, rest in peace to Duty, man. Ike Murray, Dutch, AZ, Twin, Teddy, Energy, Um, and Booby, you know what I'm saying? My son George Cologne, man, rest in peace to Booby, man, and his baby mother. You know, it's crazy because his baby mother got killed on Weeks. You know, her and her boyfriend got killed on Weeks. And that's the second or third time there was a double homicide on that block. You know what I'm saying? And rest in peace to everybody we lost, all the fallen soldiers, you know what I'm saying? All the niggas in jails, too many niggas to name. I ain't gonna, you know, go that route. Yeah, but rest in peace to everybody we lost over there. And my condolences to the family members and the children, especially Booby, man. If little Booby, if you watching, you know what I'm saying, your pops and your moms ain't here, your pops was my man, you know. Reach out to me, you know what I'm saying? I'm gonna make sure y'all all right. I've been meaning to try to find y'all, man, you know what I'm saying? Because I know y'all out there. You know, they lost their mother and their father to that block, to that neighborhood. You know what I'm saying? So little Booby, man, you know, hit me up, man. Both of y'all. I don't know the other one name, but I know the first son is Little George. But rest in peace to everybody we lost over there, man. So to get to the story, back to on topic. You know, before the coke hit the block and before the drugs hit the block all crazy, like I said, we was doing a lot of robberies and stuff. Knock came home from jail, maybe 96, I think it was, and he got some rims for the non-trade thing. You know, he was the big Billy, so he came home and he turned everybody blood. And even before he did that, we already had a big gang culture as far as the blood shit goes, because Shy Nitty lived in my building, 1767. He lived in me and Harold Rail building. Shy Nitty was he was the GF for 3rd Street. He was from the neighborhood. We had Mel Cross. Mel Cross used to be on our block every day. You know, the big fool, the godfather of the Mad Dogs. You know, his family was from Weeks. You know, me and Rel put some work in for him when we was kids. He took us to 183rd to beat some kids up or whatever because they was playing with him or whatever. So he from the block. OG Mac, before the blood shit, used to be in the hood. You know what I'm saying? And then when we found out he was the big homie, we ran around with him for a little while. But that's a whole nother story. We get into that later. Diddy Mac is from the neighborhood. Weak from the block. So we had a lot of big homies from over there. So when I came home, he kind of turned everybody blood. So the whole neighborhood damn near was blood between him and rest in peace, Cash. That's a whole nother story. Cash went up north for a body and shit like that. And because he didn't tell on the big homies who actually committed the body, they gave him some rims. So we had 2 big Billies in the hood. And between them, they turned everybody non-trade. I probably was the only nigga in the hood that was a non-trade. I was G-Shine, I was GKB. And Rel was Sex Money Murder. So we was the only 2. So it's weird how we was the only 2 that was always different anyway. You know, he was Sex Money Murder. He started out, and I was GKB. Everybody else was non-trade. The whole hood was non-trade. Everybody. There was nothing else over there but that. So yeah, and I came home about 96, turned the hood out on the gang shit, and then the coke came. So at that time, we already have a mixture for all the destruction that would come later, because we got gangbangers and we have a drug market, meaning like you could come over there and buy a kilo of anything. You could come over there and buy pounds of anything. Or if you was a soft Dominican nigga who got into some trouble, you know, in the Heights or Broadway and Amsterdam, you could come over there and find some homies that'll go shoot shit up, kidnap, or whatever you needed to be done. So this is the melting pot of destruction that was going on in this neighborhood around this time, like 96, 97. Me and Smash caught a shooting case in Connecticut. I got locked up. We got locked up for that. So I didn't come back home to 98. When I came back home in 98, when I say everybody was blood, everybody was blood. The whole hood was blood. And it wasn't just that the whole hood was blood. 240 and Weeks Avenue is live blocks. You know, they were blocks where you go outside, and Weeks is still like that to this day. You go outside, it might be 20 niggas outside. But when it came home in 98, it was 20 niggas outside on Weeks because they all had work. It was like Broadway. You know, you come up there, you could buy drugs. So we had people coming from PA, Jersey, Connecticut, upstate New York, you know what I'm saying? Because everybody was going out of town. So wherever you was at out of town, people would still come up there and buy drugs. So Weeks was flooded because of the drug market. 240 was flooded. It was, you know, niggas sold crack over there too. But, you know, that was where all the homies hang out. And I'm talking about homies from Soundview, Boston Road. We 8 blocks away from 1A Trace, so we had a lot of homies from the 3rd over there. You know what I'm saying? Webb, Wash, you know what I'm saying? All those neighborhoods. So if you was anybody who was anybody, you came through that neighborhood. Fast forward to 2000. After I came home from that shooting in 98, 99, I was home for a couple months. I went back, I caught another shooting case in CT. I didn't catch a case, I got violated. I shot some shit up out in CT out there, and they locked me up, violated my probation or whatever the case may be. I ended up getting out in 99. I came home in 98, went right back in for a shooting case, violated some probation. I came back out in 99. I was out for a little bit in 99, and on Halloween, I had a shooting case in Connecticut, on the Ave called Connecticut. That's why, Harold be saying I went to war for that Connecticut strip. Yeah, I got into something over there, long story short. I went and grabbed the gun, my vest, went over there with a gun in the vest and a couple of my Boston shooters. I turned all them niggas blood, some niggas from Boston. And somebody jumped out, shot 2 niggas or whatever. Nobody knew them, they only knew me, because I was with a bunch of niggas they didn't know. Everybody thought they was from New York, but they was really from Boston and shit. And they locked me up or whatever. And I ended up doing 5 years for that. But before I got the 5 years, I bailed out on my birthday of 2000. So I was locked up from 99, Halloween day, which it was all in the paper. People thought that it was a blood hit or something because, it was Halloween, October 31st, 031, you know what I'm saying? So I came home for that. And when I came home from that in in 2000 on my birthday, I went on a run. I bailed out, the bail was crazy. We had to get them niggas like 80,000 cash or some goofy shit like that. So it took me a few months to get the money up. When I got the money up, I boogied on them. I came back to New York. And that's where the legacy of Bucks really started. I came back on the run from out there. And long story short, we ended up, getting into a feud with an individual over the block. This is when Harrell got shot in his ass. And I don't want to bring the story back to him, but I kind of gotta. This is when he got shot in his ass. You know the video when French Montana was like, he got shot in the ass, and he was like, I got shot in the ass? Me? Recently? Everybody knew the nigga was lying. Yeah, he got shot in his ass, so he was embarrassed he got shot in his ass. You know what I'm saying? Like, because in the streets, it's like, if you got shot in your ass, that means you was running, which is okay. It's okay to run. I done ran a few times. I didn't have to run that day because I had, I was ready, but, he was ready too, but I don't know. He got shot in his ass, and he lost my brand new Ruger P95. I had two P95s. He had a P89. He lost a brand new P89. He got shot in the ass. Smash got shot in the hand, but that individual who did that after he shot my 2 niggas, it's the 3 amigos, Bucks, Rel, and Smash. So it's crazy, like, one gets shot in the ass, the other one gets shot in the hand. I didn't get shot because I had 2 P89 Rugers, extended clips. I went crazy that day. I think they said it was 106 shots out there that day. And that individual who shot my mans, he couldn't come back to the neighborhood. So when he couldn't come back to the neighborhood, in turn, we just took over, and then after we went through it with that individual, because 240 was a known block, from Creston, that whole area over there, Dub City, all of that, because that was a known block, when people heard like, yo, them niggas let off all them shots and all of this and all of that, it kind of strike the fear in a lot of people. So, me being observative and being, aware of the situation, I used that to my advantage, and we stirred the pot. If there was a block and there was some bloods over there, we would go over to them bloods and be like, hey, we took our block, take yours. So, and we gave them some courage, some guns, and some drugs, and we just, went on block to block to block to block to block. That's a whole nother story in itself. Long story short, during that time, this is when we were clubbing a lot, hanging out a lot, and in the process of that, I believe this is the time where we stuck out to, Cam and them, and this is why I think Rel got signed. I think this is the main, other than the fact of him having talent, but Cam said in one interview that, I think in the beginning of the Diplomat thing, he said that he wanted to have a representative from each borough in New York that would represent, as a diplomat, because that's what a diplomat is. It's a person who represents a country or a place. So I think he saw in his mind, being a thinker, oh, this Rel is good, he's nice, and he's from a neighborhood where, it's a bunch of Bloods over there. And he knew, he was smart, he was articulate. I'll get into to what I really believe, what it was about. It's a deeper meaning behind everything. You know what I'm saying? Because there's a lot of solid weapons for quiet wars that was, implants and things that the government did, I believe, do to propagate the blood stuff. I believe that that was intentionally, while the blood wave was going through the prison system and spreading through the streets. I believe that it was some Jewish person behind the scenes who told them, okay, push this blood thing. And that's what happened. Not just my neighborhood, in Connecticut as well. I'll get into that too, in a later video. So I believe that, us taking over the hood, we did a couple robberies. We was up a couple 100,000, we was running around in that Coogee iceberg shit, going to the tunnel 100 deep and all that. I personally believe that that's what made, not just that, but I think that's what made him stand out. Like, oh, well, he nice and he from over there. And, they signed him or whatever the case may be. Long story short, short story shorter, I go to jail before all of that happened. I do my 6 years and I come home. When I come home, in the middle of me coming home, this is when, they caught some crazy out. He told the feds this himself, so I'm not saying that they don't know. He caught some outlandish, like the nigga caught like 100 birds and maybe like 700,000 in cash, or 700 birds and 600,000 in cash, like some 1.2, 2.3, some goofy shit like that. So when he caught that money, he turned the hood out. I was upstate, you know what I'm saying? I was locked up and niggas sent me almost 8 bands and pieces. So it was a lot of money floating around. So when they caught that, again, just like before I went to jail, he turned the hood up, you know what I'm saying? Everybody riding clean and they had all the spinners. I was locked up. I missed the whole spinner era. You know what I'm saying? I was in the feds. I was in Leavenworth. And, he turned the hood up. So in that time, he got into it with somebody and they came through shooting a block, shot the block up. And that's the first time we lost somebody from our generation. We lost Julisse, our little brother, my son, little Ant. They cut somebody in the club. They came through shooting and they killed little Ant. I was going for that, but a couple bodies dropped. And I think that's where the name Weeks Murder started. Because when I came home, it was Weeks Murder. You know what I'm saying? So, that happened like in 2001 after I was already in. And that body dropped when they killed Ant. Niggas went crazy. It was a lot of money around. So, I know niggas was tossing money around and people was getting busy. And a couple people died on their side and we lost little Ant on our side. And I believe that's where the name Weeks Murder come from. I skipped out the part about Nano. Nano got killed by accident. Weeks had got into it with 240 and they killed Nano by accident. All of that happened around that time, 02. So Nano was before 02. So in 02, while I was locked up, while I was in the feds and whatever, while Rel's career is bubbling and all of that, is when, they was getting into it in the clubs. Then little Ant died and then Booby died. And Booby died because of something that happened in the club. There's another dude giving the more deeper, breakdown of what actually happened. But Booby got killed. The niggas who killed him was with Ike. The block got into it with some Spanish dudes or whatever the case may be from somewhere else. And Booby was there with a lot of black dudes from 240. So the dudes who was with Ike thought that Booby was one of the Spanish dudes they got into it with, and they ran down on Booby, pulled out on, backed him down, him and Cali, backed him down, and was like, yo, you with us or against us, or something to that effect. And everybody was like, nah, we from 240, we from 240. And I think the dude like went up to Booby, what's up with this Spanish nigga? What about him? And Booby had a heart the size of the Bronx, you know what I'm saying? Instead of him, telling the dude, nah, I'm from 242, I'm with them too. Booby like barked on the nigga and told him something to the effect, don't pull no gun on me if you ain't gonna use it, or you better use it or something. And they killed my son, you know what I'm saying? And that's actually my first, like, I forgot about Marley G. I didn't even mention Marley G. It's so much death. And this is the whole point of what I'm saying. Like, it's just so much death. Like, I skipped over. I was going to say Booby was the first, but Marley G was the first. That was my man. That was the homie. That's a whole nother story. But Booby was my first real loss. Like, Marley G was my man, too. Childhood friends. You know what I'm saying? We was in the womb at the same time. I was born in March 79. He was born in May. You know what I'm saying? His mother said that. Oh, you was born in March. I was like, how you know I was born in March? He was like, because when Tutu was pregnant, I was pregnant. So me and Marley G was like in the womb at the same time. You know what I mean? But Booby was my man. You know what I'm saying? He was the first dude I brought to New London with me. You know what I'm saying? The first. I wouldn't even have went to New London if he didn't convince me. I didn't want to go, but he was like, yo, nigga, we go to Connecticut. We got our own spot. And I was like, damn, you right. And I brought him out there. And so he was the first nigga I brought before Smash, before Rel, before Thig. Ain't that crazy? Thig, the millionaire, Rel, the rapper, Smash, the killer, Booby, the likable killer, the green-eyed pretty boy killer, and me. And I brought Yones, who actually controlled Weeks for years, another killer. So, you know, to get off topic, to get back on topic, and I'm not like, it probably sound like I'm glorifying it, but I'm just showing you that these are the people that I grew up with. You know, I didn't pick these dudes. There's going to be people in the comments or people you may hear, yo, I know Thig. We all legends in our own right, all of us. And we all grew up together. So I didn't pick these dudes. I didn't pretend to know these dudes. I done been places where, you know, I was in a Pt.2 crib with all Dominicans, and I told them I knew Thig, and they let me rock out when the Max was beefing with the Pt.2s. But some of them was like, man, he don't really know Thigadito. So, you know, it's crazy to know dudes and grow up with people while other people idolizing these people. And I name these few brothers because they all legends in their own right for whatever reason. But we grew up together, you know what I'm saying? So, yeah, so that was the beginning of the Weeks and 240 thing. But I see a brother on the other channel making it a race thing. Like, yo, the Spanish dudes on Weeks killed the black man on whatever. You know, Ike got killed because he didn't assist with somebody who was loved, murdered. Booby was dead. And Booby was somebody we all loved. And the dude over there is on the other channel is talking about like, yo, he loved Booby. He didn't know Booby. And from what I heard, because I was locked up, but from what I've heard from everybody involved, Ike's reaction was like, niggas die every day, B, but not Booby. So that's what happened to him. And, you know, those deaths rocked the neighborhood. And that probably was the beginning between the tension that led up to the Weeks indictment, that led up to a couple of other murders between the two blocks. But it wasn't a race thing. It was who you fuck with. Because Booby was Spanish. He was Puerto Rican. But he was my man. I grew up working for Ike. You know, I didn't get all the way into the details of me when I started selling drugs and all of that. But, you know, Ike was a likable dude. He was one of the dudes who ran and controlled 240. He got in a shootout with the police when he got locked up. That's why we was even able to take the hood over, because if Ike was out there, you know, it would have been bad for somebody. You know what I'm saying? And he caused a lot of death and destruction too. You know, he was the main reason why AZ got killed. You know what I'm saying? So, and I kind of skipped over that story too. But again, you can see, like, I'm trying to give it a timeline, but there's so much death and destruction in that neighborhood that I might forget something and then have to go back like that. But yeah, Ike was involved with AZ, Atari Felton, being murdered. He played a part in that. He played a part in Booby's murder. So when he got murdered, I didn't really shed too many tears. And that's a nigga I worked for, that I grew up, you know, looking up to. You know what I'm saying? But it is what it is. You know what I'm saying? You live by it, you die by it. And then when you got people you love and you care about, and it could be somebody you are right with, if you have something to do with somebody I love and I care about, you know, like Tupac, I'm not going to pretend like I'm fucked up or hurt about it. And that's what the mind state I was at that time. You know what I'm saying? So it wasn't a race thing. There's brothers on other channels saying it's the Spanish people on Weeks against the black people on 240, not realizing that there was a bunch of black people from Weeks, and 95% of 240 is from Weeks. I can get into that too. He don't know that because he's not from over there. So he's just promoting something that he don't know. Most of the major players from 240 was from Weeks. He said he know Richie. Richie's from Weeks, but he don't know that because he's not from over there. You know what I'm saying? I'm from Weeks, but people label me as 240 because I'm black and I was a blood. You know what I'm saying? But I'm from Weeks. So this is the history from the time the drugs got on Weeks to the deaths on Weeks in the early 2000s. I didn't, you know, it's more in the video to bring it back up to to the indictment that happened in 2016, all the way up until present day weeks right now. So there's more to come. I try to, touch on as much as I can without taking up too much time. So there will be another video. But again, I want to say I'm giving this history because, growing up over there and, that being a known neighborhood and a known place in New York City, you know what I'm saying? With me coming out and making a video about Rel, a lot of people been coming out, spinning all kind of narratives about that neighborhood. So I said, who better than me come put it in the proper perspective, put it up here, make a couple dollars, speak my truth, because those who came before me wouldn't speak it. And that's why I'm here. You know what I'm saying? Not to go back to how Rel nigga, I know they like, yo, he keep talking about this nigga. He obsessed with this nigga. But, it all correlates. It all, if it's a pot, that nigga's like the onion in the gumbo. You know what I'm saying? Like, he's a part of the situation. And he's the main reason behind a lot of this shit that I'm doing right now, because, he never told the story. When you have somebody who want to be the person and the main name in the lights, they're not going to tell a story. They're not going to be real. You might have heard Booby in some of the raps. You definitely heard Bucks in some of the raps. You definitely heard Smash in some of the raps. You know what I'm saying? But he can't tell you who got killed and why they got killed. He can't tell you that. He can't tell you how he feel about certain shit, because he's not going to speak his truth. He's not going to be honest. You know what I'm saying? He can't be, for police reasons and street reasons. I could be honest. You know what I'm saying? I could be up here and say pretty much what I want to say. So before I close this out, you know what I'm saying? I'd like to apologize if I offended anybody for speaking my truth and saying what I feel. I'm going to always say what I feel. I got this gap tooth in my mouth, so shit just spills out. I'm going to, I'm not saying without thought. I'm saying I'm going to say what I want to say. I'm a Pisces. I wear my emotions on my sleeves. I pray and I meditate, and I try to get those things under control. And I try to come from a place of humbleness and meekness and genuinely love. And again, these videos is for the youth. You know what I'm saying? I want y'all to listen to these stories and look at your friends and look at the people around you. You know what I'm saying? And know that you're lucky if you have a real friend. You know what I'm saying? Somebody that's going to be there for you through thick and thin. You know what I'm saying? Somebody who's going to love you without judgment and give you the closest form of unconditional love you can have down here. It's a blessing to have that. And I'm not going to say that it's impossible to have, because I do have some childhood friends who still love me, who still deal with me. You know what I'm saying? So blessed is he who finds a real friend, and a wife. You lucky when you find somebody outside of your blood kindred, when you find kindred outside of your home. So be careful who you around. Pay attention to your surroundings. You know what I'm saying? And as we at war, you know what I'm saying? Try not to focus so hard on this social media goofiness and everything that's going on with the drill scene and all that other stuff. You know what I'm saying? Focus on your schoolwork. If you're in school, if you're doing something illegal, I don't condone that. But if you are, put your money away, get into real estate, get into stocks, get you some XRP, you know what I'm saying? Get you some Hedera, get into day trading. There's other ways to make money. Go up here. If you have a talent, get up here and do something else. You know what I'm saying? The gangbanging shit is not what it is. And if you're from New York City, OG Mac, I'll get into him later. The person who found the blood, he actually snitched on somebody before he started blood. And the whole time he was writing oaths, prayers, and pledges, he was a snitch. He told on somebody. You know what I'm saying? And this was a brother who indoctrinated people, and we were able to be a movement and a revolutionary movement to take over the prison system. But as soon as we took over the prison system, we turned in on ourselves. And it's what happens with our people, whether it's the Black Panther Party or the NOI, the Nation of Islam, you know what I'm saying? Anything, that's not sanctioned by the Most High is going to implode on itself. And this is what continue to happen, in our community. So I'm going to get out of here. There's going to be a part 2 where I'm going to get a little more deeper in depth of the situation on Weeks and 240 in the neighborhood. And I'll bring you up to speed on certain things. Peace, love, and light.